but it was a very like, this is what you're going to get. Their posters weren't necessarily selling you tickets. They were just saying there's a thing going to be happening, and if you pay us $3, all hell break loose, and you can come and jump around and punch people and scream and drink and stomp and have a good old time. Um, so I mean, like Susie Sue, Susie and the Banshees, that whole goth new wave stuff. It was all screaming punk music in the late '70s and throughout the early '80s. Um, this is '81. What are you doing? Get away from me, you jerk. I just had, yeah. This is yeah, AK4. This is 1981, and then the only thing that's actually typed right is the Island, 4700 Main Street. It's just crazy town. So punk music, their posters, to take your design abilities and kind of throw them out of the window, but also to capture that raw energy of that time. It was a whole different world. I mean, look at this thing. Just all kinds of stuff. All right. And then you have, when it comes to rhythm and blues and soul music, especially in the '70s, you had nothing better to look at than the Soul Train concert series. Soul Train was not only a TV show, and it targeted African Americans, but also it focused on dance, inner city, really focused on the emerging hip hop culture. And when you look at the Soul Train concert posters, because they would sponsor tours, I mean, they were all kinds of, the '70s, the Gradients, even shows like the Midnight Special that showed like '70s rockers, but you couldn't really, the swirls. And I mean, look at just the best of Soul Train, the train itself, the animation that they had made. Um, so they would send out artists and sponsor it as the Soul Train, concert series. Okay, and then we're going to jump to New Wave, which is the bridge between punk and '80s pop. And you can begin to see some things like Elvis Costello, Blondie, the Talking Heads, the Police, Synchronicity, um, Susie and the Banshees, Morrissey, the Smiths, the Sex Pistols, the Stray Cats, and so the '80s, the early '80s, you could see the punk influence, but you're starting to also see, still some punk, but we're starting to see some '80s, the checkerboards. I mean, this is pushing that, Saved by the Bell look, or the old Dixie cups and stuff like that had that crazy design on it. So one of the big things about early '80s and new wave was primary colors. Yellow, magenta and blue or cyan. They didn't really go hardcore into four colors. They kept it simple. You would start to see, like, you look here, this Blondie Rapture, where you get a little bit of that Andy Warhol silkscreen look. We're getting into that early, the tie with the keyboard on it. So you can kind of see the bridge between punk and with new wave of the '80s, Talking Heads. And of course, Talking Heads were art students before they formed the band. And then if we look at, oh hell, I just had it in my head. What was it? Okay, now let's look at early metal posters. So a lot of them, very much like punk, were hand done. So you had, you know, now metal had logos pretty early on. But if you look at this very early, this is probably 81, 82, with Exodus, Slayer. You know, it's before Metallica exists. Look at that hand-done logo. Isn't that special? Let's see. You see a lot of, newer metal here. Let's see if I can find some older heavy metal shows. Iron Maiden before The Trooper, before Eddie was really solidified. Let's see. Oh, look at this. Band name. Add event place. Add photograph. Design a rock poster online. Don't do that, you ass. That would be bad. There's an early metal one, Merciful Fate. Now that's a poster. I have no idea what all that is, but it's basically just saying who Merciful Fate was. Let's see here. No. These are not old enough. Let's do this. Old metal concert posters. Let's see what we can find here. Oh, there you go. There we go. Look at that. Oh my. Deadly, what was that? Hellish Blasphemy Tour 2006. So it's not really that old. But in the Scandinavian black death metal, they still, do this. Now here's one. Whew. Man. I remember having to draw this stuff for kids at school. That is one hell of a handmade poster. All murder, all guts with Sadus, Dead Conspiracy, Savior, Mantis, Octuberio. Shoo! Sure. Early Judas Priest, Crocus, Slayer. It's hard to find some of those old metal posters. They didn't really advertise much. They just showed up wherever the people were beating the hell out of each other and had a good time. King Diamond. Oh yeah, look at that. There's another one of those beautiful hand-done ones. So if you want to go metal. Okay, so that is basically... Oh, wait, I'm sorry. One more thing. Country. Not everybody's into pop, rock, or whatever. Country music posters have also evolved over the decades. Hank Williams in the 50s, Cash in the... This is probably Statler Brothers, Tex Ritter. That's probably late 50s, early 60s. George Jones and Tommy Wynette. This is probably the 60s. Now be careful, because when you do country music posters, you get a bunch of new stuff. Blake Shelton, Carrie Underwood, and that stuff. You need to really be looking for old. Now this one, Tammy Wynette and George Jones, this is 1973. So it's a 4-color print, but it's very, specific. It's got that kind of worn look, which we're going to talk about when I do my demos. I'm going to show you how to do each one of these, looks. All right, so this one's like the 50s, late 50s. Johnny Cash, George Jones. I mean, no pictures, just, and brought to you by a radio station. This is at the Hollywood Bowl in California. So taking country music from Nashville to the Hollywood Bowl was a big deal. Um, let's see, Bob Willis, Johnny Cash, Loretta Lynn, Bill Monroe. Country Fair 95. We don't want to come that close to our current time. And then if we look at vintage country music posters, I just did country music posters, but then we went to vintage, then you get a really nice look of various time periods of what country music posters look like. Dolly, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, things like that. So, all right, that's where I'm going to end this video because it's super long. In fact, it took me an hour to give this to you. So then I'm going to start doing a demo.